psychic being.
Okay. Yes. So, all right. See, the essential part of man is not his body, mind, life, right? That is very clear.
Yes, Rangada.
His body, mind, life is created by nature so that the real person, the soul, the Jivatman, can come into the earth atmosphere and use the body, mind, life for experience in the world. That much is clear. So now, which is this Jivatman? Which is this real part of you? It's a twofold thing. Okay, it's not one. It divides at the highest level. It is the divine. At the lower level, it comes down, but the divine limits himself, isn't it? So therefore, your true self is double. Okay, there is the self which is absolutely static and perfect and infinite and absolutely static. That is the self. And when it comes down into the body, mind, life, it becomes a psychic being which is not at all perfect. It is essentially divine, but it is sleeping and it has to find itself back again. So that's a psychic. Now, the word soul is representative of both. Okay, the soul is a very loose term, which means that your true being and not the instrumentation given to you for the body, mind, life. So that is the soul. But the soul is essentially, when it comes down into the physical world, when the divine comes down to the physical world, in different individuals, the one divine becoming the many divine in the physical world, it is the soul. The soul is the amorphous, formless, not personalized, okay, not formed divine presence in everything. It is vague and it is not very clearly expressed and formed. It is potential. That is the soul. So you can say that the soul exists in every atom of the universe. Every atom, the divine presence is there, but it is so small and so vague that you can call it the potential divine. But it's only potential and it is unformed. So just like a lump of clay is unformed, it can become a cup or a vessel, but it has to be shaped, it has to be given a form, and it has to clearly express the purpose of its own function. A cup holds water, okay? A plate holds something else, okay? A jug holds something else, it may hold wine. So each of these formed things have a personal features and a personal function. So the soul is that which is not yet very clear about what its intentions are. It is essentially divine only, but it can become anything. It can become the awakened psychic being, but that's a very slow process. So when the soul, which is similar to a seed, okay, starts developing through many lives, the consciousness in that goes on occupying higher and higher physical forms and goes on evolving. Finally, it becomes a psychic being in man. So you can say that the psychic being is a fully developed tree and the soul is a seed which is not yet become the tree. Okay. So this is the explanation. Soul is a very loose term implying the potentiality of the divine, but which is not yet made into form, there is no clarity, there is only a vague potentiality, and it is formless, amorphous. Okay. But then it starts slowly developing and becoming more and more precise. Okay. That becomes, when it is sufficiently precise, it becomes a psychic being. But most human beings at a higher level of development have the psychic being in them, but it is not conscious. You are not conscious of the psychic being within yourself. So one of the main starting points of yoga is when the psychic being appears and shows itself, not fully, but it shows itself in its influences. Suddenly you feel love for everybody. Suddenly you see beauty. Suddenly there is a flash of light. That's a psychic being enabling you to realize who you really are. That's a psychic being. And one of the great moments of the integral yoga, why integral all yogas, when the psychic being comes forward. But the psychic being coming forward is not necessarily an identification with the psychic being. But when you go deep inside yourself and identify your consciousness with the psychic being, then it is something else. But normally there is no identification with the soul. The soul is a very vague, as I said, it is a potential divine. Like if you think of the seed and the tree, it becomes quite clear. Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, tell me.
One more question. So we can say that can we say that if each soul is a particular seed, so it carries some characteristic when it is,
Yes.
even in the amorphous form, it carries some characteristic which develops over the, you can say, several births. Okay.
Absolutely.
Exactly. One more question.
Yes.
Sorry. Now, when we talk about the Purusha, like mental Purusha, vital Purusha, how can we compare it with the soul? I mean, like, I don't know whether I can put my question properly, but what is the difference or how is it connected?
I understand what you're saying. You are asking the difference between Purusha and the psychic being.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a Jivatman, which is the individual soul. Okay. But that individual soul is not something very definite. It evolves. In the beginning, it is a soul. Then it starts becoming the psychic being. And that consciousness. See, consciousness is one of the fundamental elements in the divine. There is substance, there is consciousness, there is force, and there is ananda. Now this consciousness takes all sorts of different forms from the highest to the lowest. At the highest level, this consciousness is absolutely full of light and knowledge. But when it comes down the stairs, these stairs of the overmind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, etc., right down to the physical, it takes different poises. Its consciousness starts becoming less and less and less. So the Purusha is experienced as the consciousness at different levels.
Okay.
Yeah, at different levels. So that the realization of the Purusha starts from the spiritual planes of consciousness. When you are in your normal, identified with your body, mind, life at level 1, then you are not conscious of the Purusha. But if there is an awakening, you can realize that, oh, this consciousness is there in the mind and there is a person representing your mind in the inner being. Okay, that's the intra-conscious. So there is a Manomaya Purusha. But that Purusha becomes even less conscious of itself when it comes down to the Pranamaya Purusha. It becomes even more vague and uncertain when it goes to the Annamaya Purusha. So there is a Purusha which is the consciousness at different levels. There is even a physical Purusha, there is a vital Purusha, and this you can become conscious of when you awaken. When you experience the self, these inner Purushas start becoming realities to you. So the Purusha is the consciousness taking at different levels, it takes different. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So there is some sort of difference in there between the Purusha and the consciousness. When this consciousness, which is there inside you, okay, you can call that the psychic being. See, you must also remember one thing, that we try to understand mentally everything very with great clarity. Yes, but
things are not exactly like that. Okay, but still, many times we have discussed, it comes and then it becomes a little vague. So
yes,
I thought that,
absolutely. So long as we are in the mental consciousness, the definition is ignorance. The definition is ignorance. So vagueness and uncertainty is bound to happen. Okay. Only when you start going, the clarity starts increasing. Yes, that's right. So we are all. Yeah, tell me.
Rangada, can you say?
one of you.
Okay, you talk first.
Rangada, can we say psychic being as a Atimanas?
No. Atimanas is different.
Then how you can say in Hindi or Sanskrit or any other Indian language as a psychic being?
Srirendra says it is best to use the word Chaitya Purusha.
Okay.
Or even Kshara Purusha.
Yeah, that's right. The Kshara Purusha also is the psychic being. Correct. Gitanjali, you are right.
Okay.
And the self is the Akshara Purusha. And finally, when that consciousness goes to the highest third level, it becomes a Uttama Purusha. Uttama Purusha. Yeah, that's exactly what we were discussing. The consciousness at different levels. Na? So the Gita's description is Kshara Purusha, psychic being, Akshara Purusha, the self, Uttama Purusha, the supermind, okay, or Vijnanamaya Purusha.
And it is also called Angushta Matra Purusha in the Kathopanishad.
That's a description, yes, of the psychic being. That's right.
And Atimanas is, I think, refers to the supermind.
It's a very vague.
Overmind.
Yeah, Ati Manas means above the mind. So it could be the self, it could be the Purusha at the higher levels. So as I said, each one experiences in a different way. And someone may be experiencing the elephant mind, someone may be experiencing the higher mind, someone may. So the word Ati Manas is a rather loose term describing the consciousness above the mind. You can say that. You can say it's not a very specific term. But as Gitanjali said, it could also be the supermind, because Atimanas, after all, it is above the mind, but very, very far above the mind. So better to use the word Trigunatita. Trigunatita also is when you are above the mind. So Trigunatita.
Or we can say Ati Manas.
Yeah, maybe. We can coin words. In fact, Chaitya Purusha is a word that Srirendra has coined.
For psychic being. Rangada, so if supramental, when we translate in Hindi, it should not be translated as Atimanas.
No. They usually, there is Sarita Deep who is translating, and we use the word Vijnanamaya Purusha.
Vijnanamaya Purusha. Okay.
Vijnana Kosha, and that's the supermind. Word Vijnana is given use for supermind. That's right, level 3.
Rangada, I have a question. Generally, the prefix V in Sanskrit is to divide.
That's right. Divide, separate, yeah.
But supermind kind of combines, no? The final chapter of
Gita. The word V can also mean Vishishta. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it can also mean Vishishta, special. That also it can mean. Okay. I have a whole list of prefixes where V is, you are right, it usually V means to go away from, to separate. That's right. But V also means Vishishta, special. Okay, that can also be there. In fact, in Sanskrit, you know, all these words can have opposite meanings. So the V is a very good example of a division and also at the same time a special. It is Vishishyate, when you say he excels, when you say Vishishyate, it means he's excelling. Yeah, tell me, you were saying something.
I know the Kena also talks about Samjnana, and there are 4 of these, no?
Yeah.
Vijnana, Samjnana.
Yeah, those are the senses, the different levels of consciousness. Ajnana, Sanjnana, Vijnana, and also
I'm forgetting the 4th one.
Dhyana, simple Dhyana. Yeah.
Simply.
Yeah, that's right. The 5 levels of understanding, 5 levels of consciousness.
Yasmin, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, Shilpa, you were saying something?
Yasmin Maha. Yeah.
Yeah, Yasmin also and Shilpa also.
No,
Yeah, tell me.
This thought just came to my mind.
Yes.
It's a very, very crude way.
Okay.
But if you take the CEO of a company, who
Hmm.
cannot evolve and rise anymore,
Okay.
but he is totally powerful, immutable, and he is not accessible to the lowly workers, which is the body, mind, life. So he is the all-powerful self. Then below him is a general manager. And that general manager has the potential to evolve into something higher. So
Okay.
that can be the psychic being. Again, all the lowly workers, the body, mind, life, does not have access to that special general manager. But then that general manager has below him other managers. So these are the various Purushas who the body, mind, life, or the lowly workers can approach.
Okay.
You know?
Hmm.
So, like the CEO is the self, the psychic being is one below the CEO who who can approach the CEO, but he has the potential to evolve. And it is the lowly managers which finally become the general manager. And the body, mind, life are the lowly workers who have the potential to one day even become the general manager. This is a very crude way of my looking at things.
Crude is correct. Because that's true. But there's a mixture of similes, okay, in what you're saying. There's a mixture of similes. Anyway, that I can discuss with you some other time. But the general manager who is right at the top, it depends on how you are interpreting the simile, okay? Because the general manager at the top can be a damn fool also. Like, you have, I'm sorry, I'm using crude words, but look at Bush, okay? He was a super idiot. Or even the other one, Trump, okay? They are right at the top. But so in the physical world, there is totally a different situation. Okay. So when you say general manager, you have to be very careful as to what you mean. Okay? Because very often,
Rangada,
yeah, tell me.
taking the same simile of a corporate, we could say maybe that the culture of the organization, the unwritten, the culture of the organization,
That's right.
which is there as a that modifies behavior, and it
Yes.
makes you do, and which is the vision of maybe the founder.
Yes.
That could also be interpreted as the Purusha at various stages.
Yeah, that's right. You can say that. You can say that. These are all images, and all images are necessarily limited representations because the infinite cannot be pictured in finite forms. So it's very obvious that all our images and all our similes and metaphors are going to be inadequate. But they give an idea of what we are trying to reach and understand. That's true. And the best images are, of course, from Ramakrishna because it is the intuitive plane of consciousness, and Sri Aurobindo images in the Savitri. Fantastic images.
Fantastic. Even each image gives a clear picture of what he is saying in that particular line.
Yes.
Beautiful. That is really.
So, good. No problem at all, Archana ji. Everyone, even my thinking also becomes clear, and how to explain also starts becoming very interesting. So
actually, that's what happened, Rangada. Somebody asked me the question. So I could express, but not very clearly. So I thought I'll ask you because your expression is very clear. That's why today I thought I'll start off with that. Thank you so much, Rangada. Thank you so much.
Okay, never thank me. We are all
Okay.
we are in this all together, and we are trying to understand what Shebbu is saying. Okay, so shall we start reading today? I have to see where Sunki has put 495.
Yes, Rangada.
Okay, chapter 22, 495. So let me get the text. Even the students, I always encourage them to ask questions. And they very often begin with, Rangada, I'm going to ask you a very stupid question. I said, no questions are stupid. Because they are all attempts to understand. No questions are stupid. Okay, so let me get 495. Let me see if I can get it. Delete 495. Yeah, I've got it. So, and we have to start from thus the being of Vijnana.
Yes, Rangada.
Okay. Yeah, that's the last line of the page. So, we can start reading. Archana ji, since you sometimes.
Yes, I'm reading because I have to go.
Yes, that's
That's
right.
I don't leave the class, Rangada, but I can't read anymore.
I understand, because patients may start coming.
Yeah, and I'm sitting in the dispensary. It looks very odd sitting there and reading something.
That's
Okay, right. Thus, the being of Vijnana is in all its activities a play of perfected knowledge power, will power, delight power, raised to a higher than the mental, vital, and bodily level. All pervasive, universalized, freed from egoistic personality and individuality. It is the play of a higher self, a higher consciousness, and therefore a higher force and higher delight of being. All that acts in the Vijnana, in the purity, in the right, in the truth of the superior or divine Prakriti. Its powers may often seem to be what are called in ordinary yogic parlance siddhis by the Europeans occult powers, shunned and dreaded by devotees and by many yogins as snares, stumbling blocks, diversions from the true seeking after the divine. But they have that character and are dangerous here because they are sought in the lower being, abnormally by the ego for an egoistic satisfaction. In the Vijnana, they are neither occult nor siddhis, but the open, unforced, and normal play of its nature. The Vijnana is the truth power and truth action of the divine being in its divine identities, and when this acts through the individual, lifted to the Gnostic plane, it fulfills itself unperverted, without fault or egoistic reaction, without diversion from the position of the divine. There, the individual is no longer the ego, but the free jiva domiciled in the higher divine nature of which he is a portion. Para Prakritir Jiva Bhuta. The nature of the supreme and universal self, seen indeed in the play of multiple individuality, but without the veil of ignorance, with self knowledge in its multiple oneness, in the truth of its divine Shakti.
So, very clearly, we were discussing Vijnana. So, Swami is saying he is using the word Vijnana, and it is also in the Sanskrit literature also. Vijnana is normally refers to the highest level, supermind. But there is another one which is even higher, that is the Ananda. Okay, Ananda Kosha. You have first the Annamaya Kosha, the physical. Then you have the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the vital. Then you have the Manomaya Kosha, which is the mental. Then you have the Vijnanamaya. This is a very broad classification. Vijnanamaya Kosha is the supermind, and on top of that is the Anandamaya Kosha. This is the traditional in Indian spiritual balance. It is this is how it is. They divide the 5 planes of consciousness. But Vijnana often refers to the supermind. Okay. So let's start reading each sentence. Thus, the being of Vijnana is in its activities a play of perfected knowledge power, will power, delight power, raised to a higher than the mental, vital, and bodily level. So we'll start from the bottom. Mental, vital, and bodily level is level 1, where we normally dwell. Okay. So this is we are in ignorance, but it is higher than that. So he is using a very vague term. He's saying higher because there are many others also higher than that. But that's the being of Vijnana. Now, what does that mean? What is he referring to? He is referring to the universal Vijnana, or he is referring to the individual Vijnana. Okay, the individual Jivatman is blueprinted in the supermind if you want, because the supermind is the one and the all. So the each soul which is created, okay, is intended for a certain purpose and a certain function in the physical world. And that is the Jivatma, the individual soul in the Vijnana. When the individual soul places his consciousness into the Vijnana, that is the what he's talking about, the being of Vijnana is in all its activities, because there's no activity except for, there's no activity for the total Vijnana. No? There's only an individual who is rising, there's an activity in the physical world. The being of Vijnana is in all its activities a play. So note that play of perfected knowledge, willpower, delight power. So these three words are very interesting. He's putting a hyphen in each one, which implies that they are all the same. Chit, Shakti. So every even his hyphen is suggested. Because knowledge is power itself. Okay, will is power. Delight is also power, raised to be higher than the mental, vital, and bodily. Okay. So, all pervasive. In other words,
1 minute. 1 minute.
yeah, tell me.
I'm removing this.
I didn't follow. Okay. So,
Sorry, Ranga. Sorry. Forgot to
no,
mention.
tell me.
No, nothing. Nothing, Ranga. I forgot to mute. Sorry.
Okay. All pervasive. What does it mean? All pervasive means it is entering into the universe. Level 2. Because all pervasive. Because at the supramental level, it is not all pervasive. It is waiting to pervade the universe and create the universe. Universalized. So universalized the cosmic consciousness. The individual finds himself everywhere, and he is also in a cosmic consciousness. Therefore, he is freed from ego personality. Now note the word personality is our body, mind, life. Very clearly you must understand that. Personality is not a very vague word. It is the body, mind, life. Okay. So egoistic personality, again the same. When there is personality, there is bound to be ego. And when there is ego, you are bound to be identified with your body, mind, life. And individuality. So there's a difference between personality and individuality. So individuality is the self, the real, infinite, eternal being. Okay? Individuality. But the personality is your body, mind, life, and you are identifying yourself with your body, mind, life. So clear. He is freed from egoistic personality and also from his individuality at the higher level. Okay. It is the play of a higher self, a higher consciousness, and therefore a higher force and higher delight of being. All that acts in the Vijnana, in the purity, in the right, in the truth of the superior or divine Prakriti. Wait, did I read that correctly? All that acts in the Vijnana, in the purity, in the right, in the truth of the superior or divine Prakriti. No, I didn't read that correctly. All that acts in the Vijnana. That's how I have to read it. Okay. Acts is the subject is all that acts in the, all that is a subject. Acts in the Vijnana, in the purity. In other words, everything is done in purity, rightly, and in truth of the superior or divine Prakriti. Okay. The activity is in the Prakriti. Remember, it is not the Purusha that is acting. The Purushottama does not act. The Prakriti acts, but at the highest level, they are one. So the consciousness is telling the Prakriti, at that highest level, you can act, but act in the purity, with purity, act in the right way, and act also in truth. And then when it comes down, all these things start becoming slowly less and less and less and diminution. Therefore, the purity starts losing itself and becomes impure. Then the right action starts becoming also the wrong action. It's a gradation. And in the truth also starts becoming falsehood. All this ends in matter with the opposites of what is there in the supermind or divine prakriti. Its powers may often seem to be what are called in ordinary yogic parlance siddhis. Okay, usually they refer to it as the ashta siddhis. There are all sorts of things. The subtle being, the subtle body, can become anima, lagima, garima, mahima. All these are the and kama vashayitvam. Okay, aishwaryam. You can get whatever you want. You can become whatever you want. These are all the ashta siddhis, and it's quite common for yogis to experience all these things. So, and they are advised, yogis are advised by their gurus not to pay any attention to these powers. Why? Because if you start seeing that, oh, I have this power, and the ego is not yet fully gone, then you are likely to start experimenting with these powers and seeing, and the ego starts using it for the wrong purposes. Okay, so that's why they are asked to throw these, look at them like trinkets on the wayside. They have no importance at all. It's just small toys without any importance at all, lying on the wayside. That's why. But Sri Aurobindo has a different attitude. He says that if I want to change the physical life, if I want to change my body, I need power. So I have to, that's why it is most important in Sri Aurobindo's yoga to get rid of ego and bring the psychic forward. If the psychic comes forward and the ego is gone, these two things will ensure that the use of power will be correct and pure. That's right. All that acts in the vijnana, in the purity, in the right, in the truth of superior or divine prakriti. There is a lower prakriti and there is a higher prakriti. The lower prakriti is your body, mind, life. And universal nature also is not divine prakriti, but in a, you can say in a very loose way, as a crude way, as Jasmine said, nature. Nature is crude prakriti, if you want, okay, not divine prakriti. Its powers may often seem to be what are called in ordinary parlance, yogic parlance, siddhis, by the European intellect, by the Europeans, occult powers, shunned and dreaded by devotees and by many yogins as snares, stumbling blocks, diversions from the true seeking of the divine. That's why they are asked to not. But if you want to use the power in the right way, two conditions: no egoism, and the psychic must come forward to ensure purity of action. These two things make it very, very safe. Otherwise, you are likely to fall and get trapped in the in the vital region. This is what has happened to many, at least I know of two cases where this happened. Okay. So one was that famous example of Tirupati, who entered the vital world and he wasn't so pure. So he started disobeying Sri Aurobindo and he had to be sent away. Finally, he lost his mind and he had to be sent away. Then there's another man who was very lucky because he was a lifeguard we didn't have a swimming pool at that time. We had the sea. And when children used to go for swimming, he was a lifeguard there. Okay. And he used to live opposite the French Institute, now which is the big girls' boarding. He used to live there. And he used to complain that I was getting so many experiences and mother has taken them away. But mother saved him actually. Okay. So he used to complain, but he didn't know that the grace had acted on him because he was experiencing these vital powers and he was getting diverted. So when he told mother made sure that he would be safe. Okay. So but they have the character and are dangerous here because they are sought in the lower being. Lower being is your body, mind, life and your ego. Abnormally by the ego for an egoistic satisfaction. So the powers that come to you are used in the lower being, in the body-mind life, for egoistic satisfaction. But when you are in the higher plane of consciousness, the power is used for the right use. Okay, curing people, helping people, determining events in the physical world. Srivastava was using his power very much. Okay? Mother also was using her power very much for curing people, for helping people. Okay? So that should be exactly very, very clear what he's saying. If the power comes to you when you are still identified with your body-mind life, damned dangerous because you will fall. And if the power comes to you when you are relatively pure and the cycle is very, very safe, you know what use you should make of the power. Okay. So, in the Vijnana, they are neither occult nor siddhis, but open. So, 1 second. Certainly my computer is... Oh, anyway, let me see. It's behaving in a strange way, but I'll try to. Okay. So in the Vijnana, they are neither occult nor siddhis, but the open, unforced, normal play of the nature. As we keep going up, there is laws of the higher worlds start kicking in, and they are very natural because that is the condition of the that plane. But for someone who is living at the lower level, they seem to be miracles. Someone who can levitate, people think it's miraculous. But for him, in that consciousness, it is natural. Okay, he can also grant wishes. So these are the things. He can also make forecasts. I don't know if people are aware, but there is something in the north of India which has become very, very viral. You have heard of Dhirendra Shastri? He is a 26-year-old boy. But he has become a huge guru. I don't know if you have heard of him. He is making tremendous waves and huge crowds gather. He makes forecasts. So, but I won't go into detail, but he is one of those who has got the powers. So in the Vijnana, they are neither occult nor siddhis, but they are natural laws of that physical world. That's what Sudhi is saying. The Vijnana is a truth power and truth action of the divine being. So when he's saying divine being, he is talking of the actual divine, not the individual. In its divine identities. And when this acts through the individual lifted to the Gnostic plane, it fulfills itself unperverted, without fault or egoistic reaction. Without, now unfortunately, my computer is blanked out my text, so I'll just give me 2 minutes. What is the time? Oh, it's 8:30. I'll try to get it back again. Yeah. I've got the text now. Yeah, I've got the text. The Vijnana, so, but open, unforced, and normal play of its nature. Look at the words unforced, because that is, it's a natural play. But here we feel that when we are in the lower level and a yogi is using his powers, we feel that, my God, it is something quite different. It is not the natural thing. That's why he's using the word unforced. The next sentence. The Vijnana is a truth power and truth action of the divine being in its divine identities. And when this acts through the individual, lifted to the Gnostic plane, it fulfills itself unperverted, without fault or egoistic reaction, without diversion from the possession of the divine. So when the individual being starts mounting these planes of consciousness and goes right up to the Vijnana, then he becomes a divine being himself. Okay? The individual soul becomes a divine soul by identity. We know that it can become the divine. This idea is there very much in India, but it is not there in the other religions. You can never become the divine. You can have a relation with the divine maximum, but you can't become the divine because the individual is necessarily limited and therefore imperfect. But the Advaita philosophy does not believe in that, because you can have a form, but essentially you can be the divine. It's a very interesting question, which was asked to Sri Aurobindo. I'm making a slight diversion. It was asked to Sri Aurobindo that Gandhi is saying that the individual can never become the divine. Sir, what do you say? So Sri Aurobindo said it depends on what you mean by the individual. If you mean to say that with your body, mind, life, you can become the divine, then Gandhi is right. But if you mean that the soul, the essential part of you, can become the divine, then of course it is possible to do that. That's the identification. You have a body, mind, life, which is the instrument lying below, but your consciousness has become the divine. Okay? That's what he's saying. You have to make a very clear distinction between the two. The Vijnana is the truth power and truth action of the divine being in his divine identities. That means to say, even at the lower planes, the divine is there, and behind the limited expressions of all the Purushas at different levels, the divine being is there hiding behind each one. Okay? So that's what you mean by divine identities. At the mental level, there's a Manomaya Purusha. At the vital level, there's a Pranamaya Purusha. And behind that is the divine presence. Okay? So that's what you mean by divine identities. Very clear. So, and there when you do that, then there is no ego at all. There, the individual is no longer the ego, but the free jiva, domiciled in the higher divine nature, of which he is a portion. So, the individual jivatman lives domiciled, using the word, permanently stationed in the higher divine nature. The higher divine nature is the Para Prakriti, the higher divine nature, of which he is a portion. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita. Para Prakriti Jiva Bhuta. It is the Para Prakriti which becomes the Jiva Bhuta. Why does he say Para Prakriti Jiva Bhuta? Because your body, mind, life is Prakriti, and the highest Prakriti becomes the lowest Prakriti. Then what about the Purusha? The Purusha becomes the soul, and the Prakriti at the highest level becomes your body, mind, life. It's very clear. And the Purusha becomes your individual soul. Okay? So, the nature of the supreme and universal self, seen indeed in the play of multiple individuality. Look at that. Multiple individuality. The divine divides himself up into various souls, and he becomes individual, and he becomes individual in many, many human beings. But now, without the veil of ignorance. So when you are at the supramental level, the veil of ignorance is removed. With self-knowledge, you know yourself fully in its multiple oneness. Look at that. Multiple oneness. You start becoming one with everybody else. Multiple oneness. You are an individual, but you feel yourself to be essentially one with everybody else. Cosmic consciousness. In the truth of its divine Shakti. So, 835. He did one para, but that's what he's saying. In other words, when the individual soul is in the lowest level of level 1, identified with body, mind, life, you are in ignorance. You are seeing only the many and thinking it is real, and you don't have even your action will be wrong. You are ego-ridden, okay, and your actions will be wrong. And you are identified with your body, mind, life. As you keep rising in consciousness, you start becoming more and more perfect. But the full perfection is only at the third level in the Supermind. There is purity, there is truth, There is no ego and you are wide. You can be transcendental, cosmic as well as individual. That's what he's saying. So we stop here today. Sunki has to note in the Vijnana right relation. So we stop today.
Barabar.